Hello,
today
Ben.
we're
Welcome
down
to
on
sunny
the
Sydney.
House
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm Paul Rushworth Brown, host of Down Under Interviews, History Bards in association with Meet the Author in the US. And I am here with a very, very interesting author who's written a very interesting book, but we'll talk about that later. Lily, welcome to the show.
Hello, it's really good to be here.
Look, it's taken a bit of organisation to get you on here. I believe the last time we tried, you were over in Wales somewhere. What was going on over there?
Oh, so we were camping up near where Emma Hamilton was born. She's one of my interesting direct ancestors. And we thought, oh yes, when Paul suggested the date, how good we could do an interview in the pub, which is next door to the house that she grew up in.
So, Lily, I actually feel like I'm sitting in front of Admiralty and Royalty at the moment. So
you don't know me then.
So,
but thank you.
Lord Admiral Nelson. The number of times I've been to Trafalgar Square and looked up on that huge statue and seen him still like standing there. How long ago was it that you actually found that you were related?
Since I was old enough, like about 5 or something, to understand what my mum was talking about. So I'd heard of Nelson and Emma Hamilton long before I'd come across them in books or TV or whatever, and I was always very pleased by it. My mum was excited by it, but we didn't really do anything else with it, because what do? You start telling the other kids on the playground at school and they're like, stop showing off. It's been very hard to connect with them as relatives because so many other people have written massive big theses and books and invested in them. But that's the journey I'm on, and it's really exciting.
Discover the extraordinary life of George Matcham, the man who dared to cross continents in an era of exploration and intrigue. Born in Bombay under the East India Company's watchful eye, George embarked on 3 monumental overland journeys between Asia and England. His adventures set the stage for a remarkable story, culminating in his marriage to the beloved sister of the future Lord Admiral Nelson. Through his intimate connections with Nelson and the enchanting Emma Hamilton, George's life is vividly brought to life with authentic period press clippings and eyewitness accounts. Dive into A Most Unsettled Man for an unprecedented glimpse into the private life of an 18th century English gentleman, while experiencing the enduring love story of Nelson and Emma from a fresh and captivating perspective.
Yeah. So obviously, knowing this or finding this out from your parent, obviously that spurred you on to get into genealogy. Am I right?
2015, just with my little family, we'd coincidentally moved to a South Devon village where my grandfather, who was descendant from Nelson, had lived, and I liked visiting him as a kid. So that felt very kismet, as Nelson apparently said, destiny.
With the reading that I've done about Emma Hamilton, who is that you're obviously related to, she spent a long time as a mistress for a number of different nobles, didn't she?
That's not quite accurate. That's the kind of prevalent view that has been tarnished against her, so diminishing what she actually did. She was taken as the mistress of a rich young aristocrat called Sir Harry Fanshawe. He got her pregnant. She had a baby. Well, he threw her out when she found out she was pregnant. In desperation, she wrote to this young man who she knew through Sir Harry, called Charles Greville. They were sweet on each other, but, she'd been Sir Harry's mistress. And he said he'd take her in pregnant and he'd pay for the baby to be cared for elsewhere. And she'd have to become a nice, demure girl, repent her wild ways.
In the charming but secretive town of Wallingford Heights, 1893, 3 hairdressers and a seamstress are more than just masters of style, they're amateur sleuths. When a chilling triple murder rocks their sleepy Massachusetts town and a young suffragist is wrongfully accused, these 4 spirited women from the Vine Salon, one of America's first, must unravel a web of dark secrets. Using their keen ears for gossip and sharp minds, Estelle, Chastity, Mary Lou, and Clara dive into a thrilling mystery that intertwines the dangers of the past with the promise of a changing future.
Travis Davis takes you on an unforgettable journey from the battle-scarred trenches of World War I to the solemn grounds of Arlington National Cemetery. Through the eyes of an unknown soldier, discovered by a young French girl and immortalized in his 100-year-old diary, this novel intertwines the harrowing experiences of the Western Front with a modern-day story of a father and son, estranged yet brought together by the soldier's legacy. As they retrace the soldier's final days, this poignant narrative reveals the unspeakable horrors of war, the enduring bonds of family, and the timeless pursuit of honor. One of Four is a compelling exploration of courage, sacrifice, and the healing power of remembrance.
And then Emma found out that Nelson had actually gifted her to Sir William as a bedmate, and she was absolutely devastated. She was heartbroken, she was angry, she was punching the pillows. In the end, though, she did fall in love with Sir William, genuinely, and they got on very well together. He was very witty and cultured. And then in 1791 or 2, they got married, which defeated all the social morals of the day, where, you know, a gentleman can have a mistress, but you don't marry them. You keep it in the blood. And Emma was foreign-born, but he married her.
Okay, so A Most Unsettled Man.
Okay, so yes, George, I mean, what an interesting character. He's been there in bits and pieces in so many different historical texts about Emma and Lord Nelson. But in piecing together who he was and what he did, it's been fascinating to reveal. And I think his is an example of one of the quieter people in history, you know, the people who didn't want to draw attention to themselves. They weren't unremarkable in the sense that when you know what they've done, you'd remark upon it, but they weren't centre stage. And so his fascinating tale has survived because of his association of Emma and Nelson. And when people recorded stuff about them, George got, his story got preserved with it. So he was born in 1753 in Bombay, which at that point the East India Company rented from the British Crown. And it was a major trading enclave for them in the subcontinent. There was a lot of money to be made. So at the age of 19, back in the Bombay province, the East India Company gave his teenage boy governorship of a whole region of India. Can you imagine that at 19? Biography of him, yes.
Yeah, so it's a biography, but explain how you've written it. I mean, is there narrative? Is there sort of like conversation?
Okay, so I put it together from all the available historical facts and quotes and clippings I can find, and I've woven it together from